What is good, guys? It is Reed and welcome back to another tutorial. Today it's going to be a really special one. I'm going to be doing something that has been kind of a long time coming. One of my favorite moves of all time, and one move that's really inspired a lot of the other moves that I really love to do. So that is the diagonal palm shift, something that a lot of people really try to master but have a lot of trouble with. It is a pretty difficult move, not gonna lie. It does take many months of practice to get it to look smooth and seamless, but you know, I kind of really spent a lot of time learning it on my own. It took me a long time, so I think I'll have some pretty useful tips and ideas to speed up your guys' learning process. Now this move, as many people know, was a move An Expert at the Card Table by Erdnase. It is probably my favorite move in that book. It's developed over the years and I have some of my own sleight handlings on it, but it has inspired some of my favorite moves like the squeeze shift and something I call the strike shift that are all, you know, shifting a card diagonally through the deck and to different positions. So I have some other cool ideas that I'll teach eventually, including like a DPS to top, a DPS cover control, one I call a DPS pull down control. So a lot of great stuff and some really cool ideas that I think you guys will like. But first, to the basics. This is going to be a very in-depth video. I got a lot to say on this move and I'll give you as much as I know. I'll really kind of pour everything I know about this move into this video so that you guys can hopefully learn it. If you're having trouble, hopefully this will help you, because I do know the struggle of trying to learn this move. I want to welcome all the new subscribers. Thanks everyone. On our way to 1,000, and I can't wait to keep it going. So without any further ado, let's get into the DPS. All right, time for a quick demonstration on the DPS. We'll take the Jack of Hearts and we'll push it into the middle of the deck, and you can actually see how it's already made its way to my pocket. All right, time for some exposure on the DPS. We'll take the Jack of Hearts and we'll push it into the middle of the deck. And now we can find it right in my pocket. All right, time for the breakdown. So with the DPS, the first thing you got to get down is how to shift a card diagonally through the deck, okay? So there's a few points of contact you want to focus on. So it doesn't really matter for this where the card goes. I like to put it a little bit closer to the top, but it really doesn't matter. You should be able to do this from anywhere. You want to hold this in a regular mechanics grip, 3 fingers on the sides, thumb here, and the index finger on the front up against the card that is sticking out. Now you need to shift this card and push it in at an angle like this, okay? We're not pushing it straight in. So what I do is as I come over with this hand, I'm pushing it at an angle. And what I'm doing there is taking my ring and middle finger and applying pressure on this right edge that's pushing the card in at an angle. I'm not pushing it at the front because that would go straight in, okay? So it comes in at an angle, and then we're transferring this corner to the thumb. So I want to make something clear here. Once you push it in at an angle, you should have 4 corners still kind of sticking out. So you'll have this front corner sticking out the front, but this will be hidden by these fingers that have pushed it in. You'll have this corner, which is the corner that you're going to transfer to the thumb. And then you'll have another corner sticking out the back and one out the side, okay? The 2 important corners are the ones on the side here. It's going to be made contact by the thumb and the pinky finger here on this inner corner, okay? And that's going to allow you to slide this card through the deck, okay? You can see like that. So let's look at that again. We're coming in at an angle and we're transferring this corner to the thumb. So that should look seamless. As we push, that corner is hidden underneath the thumb, and now I can use it to pull that card through the deck, okay? All right, so one thing I see people do a lot is they'll have the cards up like this, okay? You want to make sure that deck is sitting in your hands. Now there are certain applications, certain shifts that do work better when the hands are up like this, but for this it's better to keep it down. It'll help hide that window underneath, right? Because instead of having this big hole underneath, the cards will now be hidden. So as you push that card through, the thumb is going to be on the back here. You're essentially in a biddle grip, right? With the right hand. So that is 3 fingers on the side, thumb on the back with the index finger curled on top. Okay, so push at an angle. And then there's something really important that happens. Remember I said there's a corner sticking out the back here when you come in at an angle? There's kind of 4 corners that are sticking out. There's one at the front, back, and both sides. This back one has to clear this thumb that's in biddle grip. So if your thumb is on this side, the card can't move. But if your thumb is on the left side, that card can now be shifted back and through. Okay, so that's honestly what takes a lot of practice. But you have to find the right angle that this card will be pushed on the opposite side of this thumb here, okay? So you can see it's on this side, so now the card can slide freely. If I don't push it enough, this corner is gonna dig right into that back thumb and you're gonna get locked. Okay, so it's about finding that right angle where you can go through and pull back like this. Once you've got that shift and it's under the thumb, you're gonna use the ring finger and the pinky back here, and then this thumb, and now you can easily glide this card through the deck. You can see like this, you can just pull that card through the deck now, okay? Now there comes a very important point that when you've pulled far enough to stop, and you'll kind of know when that happens. So what you're doing is you're pulling, and now that you've cleared the thumb, you can pull, but eventually you'll get stuck on that thumb again, and you won't be able to pull any further because the corner here now is getting stuck on the thumb. And that's when you're ready to pivot that card around the thumb, okay? So that's the movement. We're using this thumb as an axis to rotate that card around, okay? And it's these fingers underneath of the left hand that are gonna be doing that rotation. And if I let go, you can see how that card is now falling into a perfect palm position. So I look at it from the back here. The card goes in and it goes at an angle. Underneath this thumb, you can see it here, and it's going to pull the cards through like that, okay? And I'm using these fingers here as a track, and eventually I come back far enough and it kind of stops. It gets stuck on this thumb here, okay? Okay, so now you should be in this position here with the cards in middle grip, and you should be able to let go and kind of hold the card here. Then these fingers will be back here on this card. And if you close, you'll see how the card straightens up. But if that thumb's in the way and you close, the card is gonna pivot around the thumb. So that's essentially the movement we're gonna be making. Push through, pull back, and then this pinky is gonna rotate the card off into palm. Now here's what's gonna help a lot with that. Most people, if you start in a regular mechanics grip and you pull back, this pinky is gonna have to, one, do a lot of work to get that card to pivot, and then it's gonna have to do this big readjustment back up to here to get that corner so it can grip this corner to get it into a palm that it can hold. So a big tip that you need to do is just as you're about to go do the DPS, get this pinky up and the ring finger, pull it up to the top of the deck. So instead of here, you wanna bring them together with the middle finger. So it's kind of this cluster. And what that's gonna do is allow that card, one, a pathway to move through, okay? Because another problem you might have is if you do this, is that card is gonna hit the pinky right there, okay? So one, it's gonna give it a pathway to go through, but two, this pinky is already closer to the top corner. So now you're not gonna have to readjust nearly as much. So you pull through, and now it's gonna be a lot easier to pivot because you're higher up on the card. Once you pivot, now the pinky just has to move up a little bit to get that card to be gripped into palm, okay? So I like to show it from this angle, okay? So we come through, and you can see now the position I'm in. This is the corner my fingers are gonna grip. This is the corner here that my thumb is gonna grip. They keep pulling back. Now the card's at this angle. This corner here is gonna be hidden by the thumb. So a little bit on this corner, at first, you're gonna have to have this card sticking out a lot, and you're gonna make this big corner that your thumb's gonna need to pull on. But eventually, you can push this card in more and more and more, and just at the last second, angle it. And you can get a corner that's so small that you can't even see it, but your thumb can still feel it, and you'll be able to use that to pull. I mean, a lot of the gripping is gonna be coming here anyway, so you don't need a whole lot to grip on with that front thumb, okay? So that you can incrementally decrease, okay? Now you also, that seam there you wanna get rid of. You know, you can see how there's a bit of a seam as I'm pulling through. And the best thing for that is to just apply a bit of downwards pressure with this index finger as you pull through to kind of press the deck together. And that's kind of the best tip there. So as we're pulling through, these fingers are, remember, they start bunched together at the top. You can see, then that card freely slides through and it clears the thumb here, okay? Keep sliding, and then now this pinky can start to extend and pull this card around the thumb, okay? Around like this, so that it starts to line up with your palm for a palm, okay? It's gonna be, at first it's gonna be sort of perpendicular, and you're gonna need to rotate it so now you can get it in the palm position. And that's as far as you need to rotate it. You wanna rotate it as little as possible. It's just a little pivot, just from here to there, so that it's now in the position to be palmed. Once you get it here, all you need to do is move this pinky, which is gonna be down here, to this top corner, so that you can grip the card against the fat of the thumb. So pull through, rotate. Now this corner is going to contact the fat of the thumb. The pinky underneath is going to go up to this corner, and you're going to continue to pull this card out of the deck, and the card has been palmed, okay? All right, so let's go through some of the little nuances and some issues. So the first one is going to be, you want to push this through as little as you can so that the card comes to here and the thumb can kind of take over, but without having any flash. So you don't want it to come over and then close with the thumb. You just want it to keep the thumb pressed against it, and it pushes right underneath the thumb, and then it transfers, and you can't really see that card be pushed in at an angle at all. You don't want that to flash, okay? How much? Again, as you get better with this, you'll be able to do it less and less with that corner. Then you pull back, and again, until it gets stuck on this thumb. So you're gonna pull back and it'll get stuck on the thumb. And then make sure that when you start, these fingers are up together. They're bunched together. It's gonna give a pathway for that card to pass, and the pinky is gonna be in position to start rotating right away. It's gonna rotate basically as far as it can, or until that card is now basically parallel with your palm, okay? And then as it's rotating, this corner here is gonna get stuck in the fat of the thumb, which is what you want for a palm. This pinky is gonna just do a slight readjustment to the pipped corner of the card here. And now you're in a palm position. So you just kind of finish taking the card out of the deck, grip that palm a little bit, and you are good to go. So the major things that are gonna flash here is gonna be pushing that card into the side. So you just wanna make sure, like I said, it goes right under the thumb. These fingers stay closed, and you wanna have these windows shut at the front. And then it's gonna be this card in the back. That's what's gonna flash a lot. And these fingers doing the pivoting underneath, okay? That's why it's so important that these fingers are bunched together so you don't do much of that pivoting and that readjustment, okay? So as you pull through, you want to point this front of the deck at the eye line, and that's going to keep that card hidden as it pulls through, okay? Totally hidden. You can see this hand is pressed up underneath. That's why I said it's important we start like this and not up like this. It's going to keep that big hole closed. These windows at the top are going to stay closed. And then as you pivot, all that's still closed. You're just going to see a small movement from the pinky, but that's going to be very, very minimal. And then that readjustment's going to happen, and that palm's going to turn down. And you can see how all of that is covered simply by making sure that deck is facing the eye line of the spectator. Now, if I did that at a little bit of a faster speed, you see a little bit of a movement down here, okay? But it's very, very minimal because those fingers are already up. You can see how small that was right there. I'll do it again slow. Here's the movement, just like that. It's just a very small, like this, but it's almost negligible, right? And all that's doing is the readjustment, because if you can't really palm the card when the pinky's doing the pivoting, so you have to readjust it up to that pip a little bit. Just the pinky's the only thing that needs to move from here to here, and then you have your two contact points of a palm, and you can grip that card into a palm. It might not always be a perfect palm, but it'll be good, and the more experience you get with this, the more you'll be able to adjust that card to fit into the palm that you want, okay? If you're finding that flash that you'll get back here like this, it's because you're not tilting the deck up enough, okay? You just wanna really make sure that's all at the eye line, and it'll be totally hidden. Now in the subtleties, I'll go over some other ways that can help mask any of your flashes and make this feel a lot more kind of smooth. One thing you hear people talking about a lot is to keep this thumb on the side of the deck, and I do think that's important, right? You leave it along the side of the deck right here, then you pull out and you take it away. You don't really want to do this and then have the thumb off like this as you're doing the palm. It just seems weird. So make sure this thumb glides back along the deck and comes out the whole way, right? You can see as I do it, the thumb stayed on the whole time. So quickly here from a little bit of a better angle, you can see that card comes through with the thumb, and the pinky's already up here. So now I can pull it back, and then this pinky's gonna extend a little bit, which is gonna cause it to rotate around this thumb. This is as far as I need to go. You can see it's not in line with the palm, but now it is. Now this corner up here is in the thumb here, the fat of the thumb where it needs to be. This pinky readjusts to this corner, and it pulls it the rest of the way out and closes it into palm. All right, it's time for some subtleties. So one of my favorite ones to do is as you do the palm and you pull it through, just give the deck a bit of a riffle like that. Now, this is a little touch that I have that I think fits really nicely just because it's so natural. As you pull the card through and you do the palm, once you've palmed it, you'll realize the deck is ready to be pinched right here. So that's what I do basically 90% of the time. I'll push the card through, and you can just pinch the card between the thumb and the fingers like this. And now you have the deck pinched here and the card palmed. And it's so smooth. Once you try it out, you'll realize you push the cards through and you say, okay, you know, and look how natural of a motion that was. The card gets pushed through and palmed and gripped like that. And it's such a fair, it totally lines up with the whole DPS, and it's just totally natural, right? Totally makes sense, okay? So I do that and I combine it with a little riffle. I come here, I grip, and now I can riffle really nicely, and it looks so fair. Riffle kind of signals to your audience that you have no control over the deck, and now you're good. Another thing is handing out that deck. Anytime you can hand out a deck when you do a move like this, it takes all the heat off. They're focused, they have something to do, they can shuffle, and it's just really amazing. So I'd really recommend that, especially when you're first learning. Try this and grip, okay? You can see from the side, as I do it, I come here and it's perfect, it grips, I riffle, and I can hand it out and say, here, go ahead, shuffle, right? Two amazing, amazing subtleties. Another one, if you want to be a little bit more risky, is pointing to the bottom card. So we shift it through and we say, look, you can see your card's not on the bottom, and all I'm doing is I have their card in palm, and as I do it, I turn my hands up like this, and it's a great, great little subtlety of pointing with the dirty hand, all right? So again, you do the shift, you get the palm, and you pivot the hands, and you point with this finger, and you can say, you know, your card's not on the bottom, it's not on the top, go ahead and shuffle, and you palm. So really, really strong subtleties, a little more risky. You need to make sure your windows are closed on the palm. Again, for a palm, the card should be here on the fat of the thumb, the pinky, and the windows should be closed, and you just kind of let the card fall into your hand sort of naturally. You don't really want to grip it like this, you just kind of let it go. I have smaller hands, so I don't love the classic palm, but if you want a more in-depth tutorial on the classic palm, I have a video that you should go check out on that. So in terms of body language, it's really important with this that you be very natural and smooth. This needs to be a really smooth motion as it comes through, right? So as the card's being pushed through on an angle, pulled, swiveled, and palmed, it all has to happen seamlessly. So there's no pauses, and the card just comes straight through in one fluid motion. So you really want to be smooth, and how you practice that is just kind of doing the transfer between each section, right? So you want to make sure that pushing in at an angle to the thumb pulling back is smooth. So you can just practice doing that, right? Making sure that's one fluid motion. And then you can practice the thumb to the swivel. Make sure that's all one fluid action, right? Pull back, swivel, one fluid action. And then you can practice pull back, swivel, palm, all one fluid action. So I like to break this move up into stages. That's a great way to practice it. And you just want to make sure it's smooth. And this is one of those moves that you can just keep cycling over and over. You know, just keep doing it back to back and make sure that it's really, really smooth. That's what's important, right? What we're mimicking here is we're pushing a card into the deck, we're rubbing our hand along the side, sort of squaring up, and then we're handing the deck out to shuffle, okay? So be natural with it. Don't be jerky, don't be too fast or too slow. I see a lot of people try to just go through the move super fast like that, but I think it's a good medium pace sort of move that should be done sort of like that at a nice pace, and then, you know, you put the deck down and you have an amazing, amazing subtlety. In terms of uses and other ideas, I mean, this is kind of the king move if you're going to do like a card to pocket. It really doesn't get much better than that. One idea that I like to do is, as I do the palm, I move this hand forward a little bit. It kind of just draws attention here. And I'll see a lot of people, they do this and they just kind of come around with the card like this. If I have a back pocket, I don't on these pants, but I'll show you with the side pocket. What I'll do is I'll just stick the hand in and let the card fall in the pocket like that. Then I can actually pull it out and it seems really, really nice. So what it looks like is the card is in palm here. I come, and as I'm turning around, and the card looks like it's really coming out of my pocket, and it just sells it a whole lot more, I think, if you can have the moment where they see that card being pulled out. Okay, so the trick to that is just get your hand around there faster, and as you start to turn, you drop the card in the pocket, and then you're pulling it out as you get into view. So a bottom replacement is something super useful with the DPS, so I'll show you guys how to do that. So this would be kind of if you want to use it as a control. I think the best way to use this is to hand it out for a shuffle and then replace that card on the bottom. So how to do that bottom replacement is sort of like this. So you basically think about it. The deck was in our hands like this, and we pivoted the card into palm. So now what we need to do is pivot the card back into that position. And this is kind of what you're doing. Well, this is at least my handling on it and how I do it. If you press along this side with the pinky, the card's going to start to go, and then the ring finger, and then this finger, and then the index finger, and now the card is straight again, right? Think about it. The deck's a mechanics grip. It's like this, so the card's like this, and we pivoted it into palm, okay? Now the pinky slides, this finger slides, and the card's back into that position. So it's almost like a piano. You're sliding, sliding, and sliding, and then the card you'll see is now perpendicular with your hand. So you can kind of just do this with one hand and you'll see what I'm talking about, how the card almost moves. And what you're doing there is just sliding each finger along one at a time. So you slide the pinky, slide this finger, slide this finger. So now all we're doing is doing that motion with the deck in the hand. So I do this, and the card will kind of pivot itself onto the bottom of the deck. And from the front, it looks really, really nice, and it's very, very covered and invisible. So you just grip the deck from over top, kind of have it in that position that I was talking about with the deck over top and the thumb gripped like this. It's really nice for hiding, and it looks really natural with the DPS. You slide the pinky along this edge, slide the ring finger along this edge, slide the middle finger along this edge, and then the card will get basically orientated back with the deck. And I like to add a thumb riffle here at the back once I've done it, and it just makes the whole thing look really smooth. So I'll show you what it kind of looks like here. We have the 8 of diamonds, and I do the DPS here, right? And then I do the bottom replacement, and it's back on the bottom. I think that looks really, really good, and it's really, really sort of easy to do that bottom replacement. I wouldn't do it like up at the eye line or anything, because then you have those weird hand motions. You definitely want to do this with the top of the deck here pointed at the eye line. So it's more like this, and you do it like that, and you have a really nice bottom replacement. So one last idea would be to do this in 2 moves, and I do like this idea. It's really kind of slowing down the whole sleight. So you do the shift and you pull it through, and then you stop here, okay? So once the card has been shifted here, and you can stop. And from this angle, it's totally hidden. You can even kind of turn this way a little bit. So all you're doing is you're doing the push and the pull through, and then you're stopping. You can talk a little bit, and really you have this card here almost in like a Tenkai palm. You can just like Tenkai palm it perfectly. That's a little hint as a way to Tenkai a card straight out of the middle of the deck, by the way. But once you're here, then all you need to do is bring this hand underneath, get that pinky to rotate, and then readjust and palm. So you could do it in 2 motions, and I think that looks really nice, right? You come here and you say, all right, we'll leave your card somewhere in the middle of the deck. But here, how about you shuffle this deck, and I hand it out, and the card's been palmed, right? You can see how smooth that all looks, and it's really slowing everything down and making it feel a little bit more sort of fair, right? I almost think you can get into the palm and the swivel even faster if you do this. If you have the fingers bunched together, the pinky might be here, but when you come in, you can bring the pinky all the way up to the top here, so it's almost like one motion. Rather than doing this pivot and then readjust the hands, it kind of happens in one fluid motion. If you pull it through, then you put the pinky all the way at the top, and it just comes out like that. So it's actually a lot faster when you kind of go for the palm, right? The card's through, and then it's just like this, and you can palm it out really nicely. So play around with that as well. All right, that is it for the DPS tutorial. I hope you guys really liked that. This was kind of a very long one, I'm sure. There's a lot of details that go into this, a lot of cool ideas, and a lot of great ways to hide it. I really like pushing it through and then gripping the card like this, doing the riffle, handing it out for a shuffle, and then possibly doing the bottom replacement, and I have control the card through a shuffle, and it looks so fair. The DPS is one of my favorite controls, mostly because it inspired a ton of other moves. Like my favorite control of all time is probably the squeeze shift right here, and you can control the card to the bottom, and that's very similar to a DPS. You're doing a diagonal shift, and then you're controlling a card directly to the bottom, and it's so fair. So there's also the strike shift, which is similar to Daniel Madison's Susan shift, and it gets a card into palm right away, or into Gambler's Cop right away from the DPS. So that's even better in my opinion. And there's a whole bunch of other ideas with this diagonal shift, like the DPS to top, and all kinds of things. So it's really a super versatile move, and probably my favorite of all, and something I've spent the most time really studying and perfecting. So I hope my tips help you guys and anyone who's struggling. If you need any more help, send me an email, get in contact with me, and I will gladly help out a little bit more. But with all that said, I want to thank everyone who watched this video. Make sure to drop a like and drop me a comment. I really enjoy reading the comments. So please subscribe, like, and I will catch you guys in the next video.